I want you to understand something. I want you to understand something about the way that our God works. Our God is not a God that functions in the middle of chaos, but he will always take the chaos and bring order to it. He is a God of order. He is a God of structure, and he is a God of alignment. But I am afraid that in Pentecost we have structured the moving of the Holy Ghost out of too many of our church services. I said, I am afraid that in Pentecost we have structured and we have educated too much of the moving of the Holy Ghost out of our church services. Or we're too worried about singing our solo and hitting the final point in our message. But when that wind begins to blow, you got to get the structure and the order of service out of the way and let God do what only God can do. That's why I believe that this is not just another meeting, Brother Myers. And I'm telling you in the Holy Ghost, this meeting is a hinge meeting for our movement. It is a hinge meeting for our movement because this church has learned how to allow structure and spirit to marry. They've got a structure, they've got an order of service, but when that wind begins to blow, they always follow the rustling of the leaves. And so he is a God of structure. Why do you think God created man and woman and then released his glory? He created man, which represents authority, and then woman, which represents submission. And when there was submission to authority, he released his glory into the earth for the very first time. Why do you think in the Old Testament tabernacle, those priests couldn't just waltz into the Holy of Holies? There was a protocol they had to follow. They went to the outer court and then the holy place, and then in the most holy place, and they got access to the glory. Why do you think Paul, before he ever spoke about the gifts of the Spirit, he said you got to have church order and church government, and when you get that right, you can get a release of the Spirit. Can I tell this generation, I thank God for excellence, I thank God for structure, I thank God for an order of service, but it was never meant to restrict God. It was meant to release God. There ought to be somebody that shouts and says, when I go to my local church, it doesn't matter if it's the offering or pre-service prayer. When the wind begins to blow, God can fill somebody with the Holy Ghost when he gets ready to fill somebody with the Holy Ghost. Why don't you disrupt this service right now with a shout and let God know we don't just want good church. We want the miracles. We want the miraculous. We want the gifts of the Spirit. Do I have a generation that'll lift their voice and say, we are not satisfied with just good church. We're not looking for the talent. We're not concerned with the stage design. We thank God for it. But more than all of that, we just want the wind to blow. We just want the atmosphere. We just want the blinded eyes to open. We just want the lame to walk.